So, getting some of this install, the interior stuff hashed out. Man, what a mess in here. Um, let's see here. I mean, there's so much crap. I pulled this radio out. Of course, as you can see on the face, it's jacked up. I mean, I'm missing knobs. This is the old double thin AM/FM cassette tape. Had a equalizer on it so you could fine tune those sounds. Yes. But I'm not a purist when it comes to radio stuff. So, like I was saying in an earlier um, update, as I'm getting the, I think you can get them in 10-inch. Um, it's a double din replacement, but you can get it in 10-inch screen. And it's touch screen, Android capable, and stuff like that. And a lot of them have pivots to where you can sit there and pivot the screen this way, that way, up, down, that kind of thing. If you're driving and you don't want to be bothered and your passenger wants to watch a movie, then of course they can canter it towards them and stuff and get it taken care of. And up here, I noticed when I pulled these out, I had always had poor airflow on this side, and this seal is coming out. And I can sit here with the blower here and move it, and you can see it actuating inside there. And then of course the temperature one is behind that. So the cables move good. There's no interference with the wiring and stuff. When I put all this back together, I'm gonna make sure that's the case. But if you look inside of here, as I actuate this thing, you see that door closing and opening inside there. Let's see if this will focus. There it goes. I'm gonna move it slower. So airflow is strong, but this thing here was interfering with the airflow. I didn't have real good airflow coming out of this vent. So I'm gonna go ahead and snip this out. I'm sure it's a seal for the box so that when you do change locations, you want it to defrost, you want it to the front vents and feet. It's probably going to lose some of the force because some of that air is going to be escaping. Say you want it all coming up here to these vents, it may escape down to the other vents and so forth, but it is what it is. I'm not going to pull this dash apart because that's the evaporator box, the evap core box, and I'm not about to do all that. So I'm just going to cut this out so it doesn't hinder any flow up here. And as you might know, Saturn AC systems, they'll blow cold, but the volume of air is not like what you get in a Nissan or a Honda. So I thought about it one time putting a some type of amplifier to spin the motor quicker so you get more air. But then that's not going to help much anyway because it's going to pull more air off the evaporator core, and these things probably aren't that efficient anyway. These cars don't have cabin air filters in them, and so chances are that the face of that evaporator core is pretty clogged up right now. Because for some time, if you notice, if you pop your hood at the passenger side front, right at the corner of the passenger side on the hood, there's that little rectangular oval with that screen on it. I didn't have one on there for the longest, so that meant all the debris and stuff and bugs and dirt getting sucked into there wasn't getting filtered, and I'm sure it's all over the face of the evaporator core. To have good airflow going through your evaporator core makes for a good efficient cooling system. So even if this thing doesn't blow that strongly, at least what it blows is ice cold. So maybe sometime in the past we'll sit here and do something with that. More than likely not, but we'll see. So in the back here, I have an MT. These are all old. I mean, for Pete's sake, man, I'm suspecting 2005. You know, a lot of you seeing this is going to be laughing. This is a Jensen. Okay, this is like I bought it cheap, but it worked. Everything was fine. I mean, it like I said, I never was one for car show type. You know, put 15, 12-inch subwoofers back here, move the back seats and that kind of stuff. And this is a MTX Thunder or something like that, 40 something or another. But anyway, they've been in the back. I got some water back here. At some point, the seals back here were leaking. I got those taken care of. But, you know, it's all showing its age. And I'll clean all this stuff up. I'm not trying to, like I said, be a show car. I won't be popping my trunk at a car show to show off my sound system. So, but just trying to figure out the rat's nest of wiring. I'm going to redo the wiring all throughout the car up front to the back here. So that's one thing. And of course the spare tire, I will have a spare for what it's worth, but I still have the spare and the tools. Got to clean all this rusted up stuff back here. It's not that bad. I'll be able to clean it up and stuff. And this is the woofer that I had in the back. It's just a box. I don't have anything special set up. This time around, I'm going to bolt it down rather than just have it bungee cord back there, and make it cleaner and attach it to the car so you'll actually feel some more of the bass than rather than it just get kind of lost. It's not the best in the world. You can see this side part here is kind of lifting off and coming apart and stuff like that. Like I said, the box itself is degrading from moisture more than likely. But like I said, not looking to make the world go boom. And of course, I told you I put the Celica GT seats in here, and they're nice seats and everything. They hold you good, especially on the side bolsters. The hip bolstering, not that bad. It was meant for more of a you know, everyday driver, and so the people with a wide seat can get in there pretty comfortably. But these hold up pretty good as far as the sides. And I like the design of them. And of course, they're leather. I got these, I think, I got these for 75 bucks for the pair from LKQ. And one deficiency on it, one of the seats, I think it's the passenger side, right about here, just has a small little perforation, which when I take the back seats, which I've already got out, show you real quick. Of course, I got those out here a few moments ago. Carpet's out. I'll clean up all this. Like I said, I'm going to make this wiring really, when people build computers, they call it wire management. That's what I'm going to do here. Make it a little bit cleaner and stuff. But I've got the back seats out because I'm having those leathered like these. And the guy said when you bring in the seats, bring in this leather so he can try to match it as best he can. So the interior is going to be this gray color. There's a good, these side sill plates. So this gray color in there, and of course it's going to be black with the seats, the leather seats. And I've already taken the side panels off for the door panels, and so I've got the door handles out. But this is the section here that's going to be leathered to the chair. So side inserts are leathered, but the actual door panel itself is still that gray. And then of course the back seats with the interior having the gray there, the seats are going to be black. And then the deck, I'm going to take that down and clean it real good. That's gray as well. So it's two-tone basically. So I'm not trying to be, you know, all this will be cleaned up, armor-alled up, sweetened up. It'll look really clean inside. May end up changing the shift handle too. That one's all beat to heck. But it's a cut down shifter. It's not a true short throw. It's just a cut down shifter. So that's what I'm looking to do. That's you know, it'll have the black center console right there. So anyway, making some headway here. Researching front speakers. I did pull these front speakers out to get those. They were popped, and so the enclosure here I think is 5 1/4. But they say Crutchfield has a really good website. You go on there and it'll tell you what speakers are compatible with them and everything. And but at any rate, this it's 5 1/4. If you take out this back part here, you've got, I measured it today, you have 3 1/8 inch before you'll hit that glass back there. So if you take this out, you got quite a bit of room to put a speaker in there, fairly large size speaker. Like I said, 3 1/8 from the glass to here. I put a straight edge across it, measured it. So if you figure 1/8 of an inch, just go ahead and kill that, have 3 inches, and that way you can go ahead and put a decent sized, and he was saying 6.5, even 6.25, 6 3/4 speaker would fit. But of course by then you've got some room to put in some different screws and drill some different holes to make them fit. But that's what I need. I still have, now the system I had in here before, it was these little infinity tweeters in the door. And so it just had just like the woofer cone type speaker down in the door, but those busted. And so I'd already threw them away. So I just got off Crutchfield's website. Not so much wanting to buy Crutchfield from Crutchfield because they're more expensive, but man, their website is bar none the best I've seen as far as telling you what'll fit, giving you some ideas, you know, a lot of variety and selection there. And then you can take what they recommend and then go on Amazon and stuff and just try to copy and paste what they have as far as the model and see if you can get it a lot cheaper. So, but I'm going to reuse these as the tweeters for the component system, and then just get some the plastic subwoofers for the doors, 6.5 inches. Just something to handle, like I think what he showed me you could get as low as 48, so it'd really be good for bass. And then of course these handle the tweeter setups, and of course it's already got the crossovers inside there. These right here are the crossovers. It's an old system, like I said, so if this stuff looks old and you want to get a good laugh, go ahead. This isn't something I'm truly embarrassed about. It is what it is, and I'm not going to, like I said, spend a bunch of money on the sound system. I just want to have what I have, streamline it, clean it up, and nothing new under the sun as far as that's concerned. So yeah, the rear seats, like I said, got those taken out. I'm gonna let the guy tell me what, obviously for rear seating and stuff, it's the leather's gonna have to have this hole cut in it because that's the latch as you send it back. I don't know if he's gonna incorporate, he probably will. He'll need some way to incorporate these to wrap it on there. It's got the hard backing. This is where I had my amps attached, one on each seat. And so, and of course underneath it, got the rear seat section, and he'll do that. And like I said, they're the upholsterers. Should be able to mimic it and take care of it pretty good. And of course, with the rear seats not being sat in very much, it's more for just looks, so that everything flows. You got leather front seats, and you got these chintzy. This is from the SC1 because, like I said, this is an SC1 that I put the dual overhead cam engine and transmission in, manual transmission, and pretty much wanted the light car with roll-up windows, you know, less weight, and matched with the dual overhead cam motor, and so give more power and speed and stuff like that. So one thing I want to share with you too is this is the door panel. The door panel itself, I got it facing down, but these holes here all correspond to a hole here. Okay, now what Saturn did, they don't have, if you want to take these off, and the way Saturn did it was they would come with just nipples sticking up, and of course you would put those through these holes here. And when you put them through, the only way to secure them was to melt them and mushroom them down, so that it would, you know, you'd basically mushroom them on this side, and that's how these panels were held on. So and there was a time I remember when you'd go to replace them, that's exactly what they had to do, is you would cut that mushroom or kind of grind that mushroom down to where you had this left over basically. And at that point, the new one would come with, of course, new necks, and they would stick through these holes, and you would just melt them and mushroom them down again. So when you're doing that, take some, like, sometimes the head of them won't be up high enough, but if they're up high enough, go ahead and just cut that mushroom head off, And since I'm not replacing this section, I'm just having this wrapped with leather. When I go to put them back on, you'll just take some small screws, and the ones I'm going to use, I'll show you here in a second, but that and some washers. And then that way the washer becomes a mushroom, and the screw, you will be able to get down inside of there. And let me do that here. Let's see if I can focus inside of there. That's good enough. You'll be able to get inside of there and just use a diameter screw that's larger than that hole, not too large. And then that way you can go ahead and use that and re-secure it. The problem is, if you look at a lot of these, when I cut them off, they literally crumbled in the jaws of the deal. It didn't cut, more or less, than they crumbled. So as you're putting them in there, don't use a motorized screwdriver. Just use your hand and tighten them down just enough to get these just snug, because you got all these connection points going all around. It's going to hold in there pretty good. You are pulling on this when you pull the door closed, so that's something you'll have to take into account. But the goal is to use a screw long enough. They're pretty tiny. Let me grab one. So it'll be something like one of these. Now these have a big enough head on them. See, these are a little machine screw. You've probably seen these a lot. They're self-tapping. See the little end on there? It's a self-tapping end. And the diameter of this hole, as you put this thing in there, should be good enough, should be big enough. And as you screw this in, if you use too large of a diameter, it's just going to break apart this barrel that you're screwing into, like crack it. So you really want to find one that's just, this is actually, and I say I'm using this, I'm not. This is a little too big. You'll want to just use some really small screws if you can, and maybe the self-tapping one's not the right one. We can try this other one. See, maybe something like that. See, these aren't self-tapping ones. These just have the pointed end on them. But getting it in this barrel, it's just kind of perfect. But this head, obviously this head, as you go over to this hole here, where's she at? Right here. It's not big enough, so you're going to want to use a small washer to keep it, kind of give it that mushroom effect to where it's holding on that side. And if you look, this screw, if you look at the height of this thing, by the time it's in there, it's going to bottom out here, especially if you have the washer on there. It's going to seat maybe a little bit higher than that. This one, just be careful. Look at the length of this screw. Just on the other side of this thing is the door panel, so you don't want the spike here sticking through the other side. So you want to probably get one even shorter than this. Just as long as you get about halfway through, it should be okay. So this one's a little bit longer too. So find an appropriate length screw. Just kind of think of every scenario. When you do put the washer on there, think about how much higher it's going to set the screw up. You just need some penetration, because like I said, you're going to have contact points all around this thing. And so it's going to be strong enough once you get all the things, all the screws in there. But just bear that in mind. Again, this is a 1997 panel, so this plastic is pretty brittle. So again, you don't want a diameter of one that is really bigger than the hole that you have in here, because it's just going to crack and break this whole thing as you're trying to screw it down, and then you're screwed. So, and at that point, in my case in particular, I'm going to have it leathered. So at that point, it'll be useless. I'll have had these panels leathered for nothing. So you just got to think about these things. Think about what you're doing. This is metal. This is plastic. So naturally, you're going to want to keep that in mind as you're screwing it down. These things are only strong enough. Metal's much stronger than plastic. So just snug it a little bit. Watch the side of the screw as it goes down onto the washer. As soon as that thing makes contact, maybe give it another quarter turn or something, and that's it.